not here. You are still responsible. We are moving on every day. We're not just going at half speed. So I do expect you to stay caught up. If you want to join in class every day, you can go to the Google Meet, and I'm just going to try to have that on every day on my computer. So if you want to chime in and ask a question, you can. If you want to use the chat and ask me a question, or if you just want to sit back and watch and listen throughout class, you're welcome to do that. I will start it during our class each day. If I'm not on there immediately, give me a couple minutes to do attendance and those things, and then I'll get it going. The second option, if you don't want to do it during our regular class period, is to watch the video. And you guys all remember how to get to the videos. If you go in Classroom, under Class Documents, I have the direct link to our YouTube. And after class each day, I will post, most recent video will be at the top. So if you want to do that, you can watch the class later on. I will likely not post in Classroom every day saying, today I covered this section and assigned this as homework. I'm expecting you to get that from the video. You also have the option, remember down here I've got our unit and I have the assignment tracker, which I am updating every day, so that would also have what I'm covering and what the homework is, so that I'm not trying to also post in Classroom every single day, because I probably wouldn't get that done. So if there's a handout or something extra you need, I would post that. But otherwise, just for getting the assignments, I expect you to be able to do that here or from the video. Any questions about that? So as far as turning in homework, I am still debating how we're going to do this. I think for now, I am going to try to collect it the days I see you, Monday and Thursday. If I start to notice that people are getting behind, then I will probably switch that and start having you submit it in Classroom. So I would post an assignment, and instead of having you email me pictures like I did last year, I would just have you upload your picture on that assignment to turn it in. So I would rather do in person, that way we can talk about things if you have questions, but if I need to switch it to help people stay a little more on track, then I will, and I'll just keep you posted with that. Do you guys have any preferences or questions about that? It's not too big of a deal to hang on to a few assignments and turn them in. Currently, you have several assignments for me, really an entire chapter's worth. So normally I would grade these in class, but because we have like a full week, I am not going to do that. I'm just going to have you turn them in, and then I will look through those. So you had sections 1 and 2 was the first assignment, section 3 and 4 was the second assignment, and section 5 and 6 was the third. If you just want to put those in order and then pull them up one nice packet for me, then just set those on the corner of your desk and I'll collect them in a bit when I come around. Next thing I want to talk about was the quiz that you guys took. So please make sure that you are checking every day. I had a few people that didn't even know I posted a quiz because they weren't there. So please make sure you are staying caught up there. All right, let's talk about that quiz then. I'm not going to go through question by question. I did release scores this morning, so you should be able to go in now and see your score. If that's an issue for anybody, let me know. But some of the things that I noticed we had a problem with, the level of measurement questions we had some trouble with. So when we talk about birth year, remember the orders we had: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. What is nominal data? What does that mean? What's your notes speaking to? Remember, nominal was our first level, so everything's nominal. What is that talking about? Okay, Logan.
Like given a measurement or data.
Right. Kind of like a categorical thing, something like name would be nominal. So birth year is at least nominal. Ordinal, we have to be able to put it in order. Can you put birth years in order? Interval, there has to be it has to be meaningful to subtract two of them. So if I take the year you were born minus the year I was born, does that give me something useful? Yeah, it tells us the difference in our ages. Ratio, if I take the year you were born over the year I was born, does that have any meaning? No. So this one is interval. Marital status, a lot of people put ordinal on this one. When I'm talking about marital status, we're talking about like single, married, divorced, widowed, those kinds of things. That's at least nominal. Can you put those in an order? No, there's no ranking for that. And if you can't do ordinal, then you stop and none of the others work. So marital status is just nominal data. Okay, number of siblings. So at least nominal. Ordinal, can we put number of siblings in order? Yeah. Interval, if we subtract them, does that have meaning? Yes. Ratio, does it have meaning if we divide those? If I say, okay, this person has 4 siblings and this person has 2, and we say 2 over 4, you have half the siblings the other person does. Does that have meaning? Yes. So this would be ratio. Okay, parameter and statistic. Remember, if it's talking about the entire population, it's a parameter. If it's talking about just your sample, it's a statistic. So we surveyed 1,011 Hannibal residents. So let me stop you right there. 1,011, is that the population of Hannibal or is that a sample from Hannibal? That is a sample. So before I look at anything else, I already know I'm talking about a sample, so this has to be a statistic because that 73% applied to the sample, not all of Hannibal. Okay, in 2015 NCAA football championship game, so completed 70% of his passes. Okay, so I'm talking about one particular player in one particular game. So that 70%, did we look at every single pass in one single game? So that is talking about a population, because he was the only person. I wasn't talking about all the players or all season long, just one game, so we have all the data, so 70% would be a parameter. Does that make sense to everyone? So a couple other questions that I just wanted to go over. The bias. So we had a phone number people can call in and vote. But if you call, you have to pay $2. So sampling bias means I go out and collect a sample, but there's something wrong with the group I collect. Did I go out and collect this group and have, no. Is there going to be a problem with non-response, people not responding, or response? They respond, but they don't give me an accurate answer. Non-response, because people aren't likely to do it because it's going to cost them money. So you are not getting the responses, so this is non-response. Okay, an interviewer sent to an area where her language is not commonly spoken. She polls only those people she can communicate with. So did she get a sample? Yes. Is her sample a good one? No. Why? It's only the people she can talk to. Do those people represent the entire population? No. So this one is sampling here. She got a sample, but the problem is how she got it. Okay. Now let's talk about the actual collecting the data. So the first 50 students to enter are given a survey. That's convenient. I just did it the easiest way I could. I wanted to get my results immediately, so I talked to the first people that came in. Alright, I put everybody in alphabetical order and use a random number generator. That is simple random. Okay, it was random how it was chosen. No bias there. 15 students from each class are randomly selected. So I took everybody. First, I broke them into groups. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So everybody's in a group. And then I select random people from each group. That is stratified. Each table in the cafeteria is assigned a number. Numbers are drawn randomly, and all students at that table are completed. So it starts out the same way, where I break them into groups. You know, the last example we did freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Here we're doing tables. The difference is, in the last example, I just took a few from every group. This time I'm going to take an entire group. So if you're just taking the entire group, that is a cluster sample. All right, every 10th person is asked to complete the survey. What's that? Systematic. You have a system in place. You're always going to pick every 3rd or 5th or 7th or 10th or whatever person. All right, last thing, I'm not going through all of these, but we did have one issue, the factor. When I talk about the factor, what is that? That's your variable that we're looking at. So the variable here was whether they got the flyer or not. So the factor was the flyer. Are there any that I didn't talk about that you guys wanted me to? I tried to hit everything that people missed. Okay, if you do have any individual questions after you review your results, please let me know. All right, we are going to go ahead and start our next section then. So the notes that I printed before also includes this. We are in chapter 2 now. You still have your notes packet and your examples packet, so we can get those out. We are also going to be using our Chromebooks a little bit today. Alright, so first thing on here, definition. So on your definition packet, we are talking about a frequency distribution. Nope, I did not print notes for this. Sorry, we're not going to have as many definitions in this chapter. So I think I still printed the example slide, but I did not print a definition page on this. I apologize. Put your definitions in your notebook. So a frequency distribution lists each category and the number of occurrences. So I list the category and how many times that shows up. so we are just going to make a frequency distribution. If you look at your example packet, first one on the third page, we're going to talk about colors of M&Ms. Alright, so I want to make a frequency distribution. What we have to do is list the category and how many times it shows up. So I'm just going to make a table. I'm going to do color and frequency. So the colors that we see, brown, yellow, red, orange, blue. Now you can tally this however you want. If you want to go out to the side and make tally marks as you go through the list, you can. If you just want to go up and count how many times you see each word, that's fine. Let's divide it up so we're not all sitting and counting the same thing. We'll speed it up. So we've got brown, yellow, red, orange, blue, and green. So count how many you have of your color. Yellow, red, orange, blue, green. Okay. That's a frequency table. That's all we have to do. Now, a lot of times we are going to add something else to this. We're going to talk about relative frequencies. So a relative frequency, it is like a proportion or a percent of observations. So to find that, you just have to do the frequency divided by the sum of all the frequencies. So basically, how many things you saw. When you do this, you get a decimal. So what should all of them add up to? Or think about it, if I gave you a percent, what should all the percents add up to? 100%. So in decimal form, they should just add up to 1. So we'll see frequencies like 0.23, 0.14. And when you add them all together, you should get 1. Alright, so let's add that to our table. This is example 2 on your handout. It says to construct the relative frequency distribution. I'm just going to go back and add it here because that's how we will typically do it, just one big table. Okay, so if we add up all of our M&Ms that we saw, that's 46 frequencies that we just calculated. So to get your relative frequency, I'm going to write this here so you see how I'm getting it. You're just going to do the number of times you saw it out of 46. And we'll go ahead and give a decimal. It's like 0.2609. I'm going to go to 4 decimal places, round appropriately. So if I did 10 out of 46, that's about 0.2174. 6 out of 46, 0.1304. 0.0652. 0.1086. Does everybody know how I got those numbers? If you add those up, it should add to 1. Is it guaranteed to be exactly 1 here? Why? Yeah, we rounded some. So just keep in mind, if it's not a perfect 1, that's most likely due to rounding error, but it should be very, very close. Any questions about frequency or relative frequency? Okay, I want to make a graph for these things. So I'm going to make a frequency bar graph and a relative frequency bar graph. First I'm going to do it by hand, and then we're going to talk about doing it on your Chromebook. So bar graph, you guys have made these before, right? What would I put about on the bottom? Colors. So make sure you have a label. And what do we put on the top? Or on the vertical axis? The frequency. So let's see, the most we saw was 12. I'm going to count by 2s. And I'm probably just going to label every other one. Okay, and then you just draw your bars. So the browns, how many did we have? Was it 12? Is that what we said? Yellow and red, you told me we had 10 of each. Orange, there were 6. Blue, we had 3. And green, we had 1. So, not perfect, but we could get that. What would be different if I made a relative frequency bar graph? What would change on this? Just over here we would have relative frequency and we would have our decimals that we would graph. Okay, I want to talk about doing this on the Chromebook. on your examples, I did actually print step by step how to do this. If you look at the end of that example page, there's a make tables in Google Sheets. So we are going to go there and we are going to create this table in Google. For your homework, if it's asking for a table, you can do this. Test and quiz, I will have you create some on a Google Sheet and share it with me just to make sure we know how. So if you could go ahead and pull up a blank sheet for me. So we have to enter our data. We had colors and we had frequency. So go ahead and enter the colors that we saw. And the number you guys counted. What do we have? So it should look like this. Once you have that in, you need to highlight everything. And then you can go to Insert Chart. So mine came up with a pie chart first. You can drag that and move it around so it's not covering up your data. What kind of graph were we making? We were making a frequency table, right? So if you look here, you have on your setup, your chart type. Which one looks most like what we were doing? Yeah, we did a vertical one. And then does that look very similar to the graph we had just put up on the board? You can change things in this. Like if I put a test question, you probably don't want to leave it as frequency versus color. You can change the title of that. So if you're looking in Google over here, and this is all on those slides where I outlined your steps, so if you need to go back and look, you can. So we can go over to customize, and we can change all kinds of things. So let's go to our titles. So this is a drop down. I'm going to change my chart title. You can also change the horizontal and vertical axis to whatever you need. So let's just say we make our title M&M color, or whatever I asked you to call it on the test. How would I change this to be a relative frequency table instead of a frequency? What would I need to change? We have our frequencies here. We could put in, we went and made another thing. Let's do relative frequency. And we can either type in those decimals or we can make it do it for us. I can type in you know, how we calculated it, 12/46. We can type in, I'll go ahead and just do the decimals we already found. I don't even remember what they were though. So let's just say you put in all of those decimals. Then when you highlighted, you would just highlight your color and your relative frequency column, and you could go to insert and do a bar graph there, and it will change that for you. So we can do it all on one. If I ask for a bar graph, then the only thing that's different, if I ask for a pie chart, then your chart type would just be the pie chart. And you can change your labels accordingly. Does this make sense to everyone? Any questions there? Yes, ma'am.
How do you highlight the color and the regular?
Control. So you highlight one, control, and then highlight the other. I want to look at one more example here. I want a side-by-side relative frequency bar graph. So for this one, if I want side-by-side, we have to first put all of that data into our Google Sheet. So let's go there. You can keep the same sheet, just scroll down. So I'm going to come down here. And type all these in. You need to highlight everything at once. And then you can do your insert chart. And it is actually smart enough, it recognizes that I have multiple sets of data. I have the 2 different years, and so it actually graphed those side by side. Color coded them. So I've got my blue is 1990, my red 2006. It makes it legend for us and takes care of all of that. Any questions there? Is everybody getting that to work? And you know how to change things. If I told you to change the title to marital status, you can go into your customize and change your titles. Add labels. Sometimes, if you're looking at your chart type, there is also the one that makes it go side to side. We usually use that when these labels are really long. So if they're very wordy, we don't like the vertical bars because then everything gets cut off at the end. So if you have huge labels, it's easier to read it horizontally. But that's really the only difference. They're essentially the same thing. do I need to practice making any other charts? Pie charts, you might have to make one of those on your homework. You can do it on here as well, you just select that type. So do we need any other practice on that, on the sheets? So that is actually the end of this section. I think I had a couple more examples, but I don't think need to go through them. So this is the assignment. For you guys in class right now, I will see you again on Thursday. So I want this on Thursday. Part of it is asking you to make a Google Sheet. So I will set up an assignment in Classroom so you can just turn it in there. Tomorrow, I am going to teach section 2.2. Wednesday is our fully online day, and actually I had that set up to be a work day for the 2 sections. So tomorrow, make sure you're watching the video, getting the notes for section 2.2, and then Wednesday, finish up the homework from the 2 sections, both of them due on Thursday. Does that sound good to everybody?